On this Monday, a whiplash day on Wall Street. The markets closed without any huge loss this time. The Dow down 349, though at one point it was down as much as 1,700 points. The Nasdaq ended slightly up, and the S&P 500 was down 11 points. President Donald Trump doubling down, however, in the Oval Office, saying this.
We're going to have one shot at this, and no other president's going to do this, what I'm doing. And I'll tell you what, it's an honor to do it because we have been just destroyed, what they've done to our system. You know, we have $36 trillion of debt for a reason.
Trump says he plans to put additional tariffs on China if it does not rescind its retaliatory tariffs. Meanwhile, markets across the globe, of course, are reacting. And join us now to break all this down, Catherine Pakaluk, Director of Political Economy and Associate Professor with the Busch School of Business at the Catholic University of America. Great to see you.
Hi, Owen.
All right, let's get right to it. The markets last week, towards the end, right? You don't want to go back to that.
I know.
Today, everyone was wondering, what's it going to be, kind of the hand over the eyes thing? The numbers were right here, as I mentioned in the opening, the Dow down 349, the Nasdaq up 15 points, the S&P down 11, but it did start out pretty rocky. Bottom line, your assessment of today's movement on Wall Street.
Yeah, it indicates more of the same. I mean, people are really confused, not sure what to expect. I think that we will probably see more of the same for the next week, kind of ups and downs. Nobody's expecting I don't know, somebody might have been expecting a complete crash this morning. But, the markets are always looking for more information and trying to assess. There were rumors this morning about maybe Trump backing off, a 90-day pause, that kind of thing. But I think this is overall pretty expected given what we're seeing from the Trump administration right now.
So you have a 401k. I don't know if you do, I'm not asking, but I do. I know a lot of people who do, right? And again, one of those, I'm just going to avoid this for a while.
Yeah, don't look.
What would your advice be? Or let me take that back.
Yeah.
How do you think the general feeling is out there for people who own 401ks?
Yeah, well, it's obviously disappointing, but I think it's a little too early to decide whether or not everybody needs to reevaluate their positions. I think holding for a few more days or maybe a few weeks would be a good idea. We're seeing this administration is highly volatile, in these ups and downs. And so, so probably if we can have the stomach for it, we should just wait and hold off a little bit.
Certainly.
Yeah.
What's the point in panicking? The long run, the markets are, if you kind of step back, right, and look at the long term, it's generally up. If you look really close in the nuance of it, of course you're going to have those type of things.
That's right.
But I'm not let me just make sure, I'm not an analyst or an investor, expert, nothing like that. So just so everyone at home knows. Okay. Looking at this from a Catholic perspective, what does the Catechism say, if anything, on tariffs and trade in general?
Yeah, so the Catechism is, I think appropriately careful. We don't have a lot in the Catechism on tariff, but we do see that a couple of popes, Pope Benedict actually pretty recently weighed in on tariffs and kind of said, look. I mean, when wealthy countries like the United States put high tariffs on goods that are coming in from the less developed world, this is a problem for those countries. It's something that maybe we need to take into consideration. But we don't have a ton of guidance. That being said, I mean, that's not very surprising, right? We wouldn't expect to open the Catechism and find kind of a handbook on how to do surgery. we would expect
tariffs,
basic,
right? No.
Yeah, we would expect basic principles. I mean, take into account the overall health of the patient. Don't cut off the nose to spite the face. I mean, that sort of thing. And I think that's the spirit of which we have to think about this. There are some general principles that we have had for several hundred years. Generally, trade is a win-win. This hasn't gone away. And the Catechism generally, and the popes have urged us for a couple of hundred years to see the fact of God's creation and our opportunity to trade with each other as really a good thing and a providential thing. So, we would hope that this would be short-lived, this trade war would be short-lived, and we could kind of go back to reciprocal agreements that are like, that don't place huge burdens on trade.
And Catherine, one more thing real quick, we've got to wrap it up here, but I'm sure you're aware, when they showed the list of countries and everything they're being tariffed, the one place not on there, at least that I saw, Vatican City. Did you know that?
I did notice that. Yeah, I don't know how much we buy or what to sell to the Vatican City, but yeah, that's very interesting. So yeah, I hope it's short-lived.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it, Catherine, and we'll talk to you later.
You're welcome. You're welcome.